Hello, my fellow humans. Episode 10. Okay, still doing this. This is all stuff that I've been thinking, but I haven't said. So a lot of times when I press record, it's just like, all right, what's gonna come out? What's on the forefront of my mind now? A lot of times I barely even know. And I wouldn't be recording this if I didn't feel like it was needed. It's not a recording for entertainment. It's a guy showing his authentic self in a way that most people hide themselves. Just showing the reality of my life, because when I was not doing that, when I was not showing my reality, I would see nothing, very little out there about the truth that I've been discovering, because I was in a delusion for, well, my whole life. And I was in a really dark place. And I couldn't get out of it. And I was realizing that everyone else is in their own version of a dark place. And there's a few people who get out of it. And once they get out of it, they have very little reason to sort of talk to the people who are still in the illusion and try to explain to them what's happening, because they are out of it. They don't need to play the game anymore. They're now in the next chapter, which people refer to as like awakening, becoming enlightened. It's basically getting ready for the next chapter of life, which is not in this physical world, not in this feeling world, this limited world of left and right, up and down, basically like the third dimension. The next world is the fourth dimension, and then it continues from there, which is very fun to think about. But it puts things in perspective a lot in your current life as you're going through it, which helps people, empowers them to get through their daily struggles if they learn this early on. So that's why I'm thinking I've got to just voice everything I can. Whether it paints me in a bad light or a good light, I don't care. Whether this doesn't lead to anything, great, because I don't care. Like, if it doesn't lead to anything, as in like, doesn't become this thing that helps people, well, maybe it didn't need, maybe the world didn't need this type of help, or someone else came in and helped in a more superior way than what I'm doing. Great, I'll be happy about that. All I want is a government that is run off this true power of unconditional love. What I was hinting at about how dogs have tapped into that in my last episode, how they have unconditional love, and we look at the dog as a lesser being, but it's more superior in unconditional love. Pretty interesting. We're more intellectual, but we're more superior with our intellect, but with our intuition and our unconditional love, we're less superior than the dog. And when people come into this place of unconditional love, a lot of times even trying to tell people about it would fall onto deaf ears, because as the person who's experienced the awakening process, you almost know that you can tell someone the truth as plain as day and they won't hear it until they're ready. So that's why a lot of spiritual leaders will just say, oh, just nothing matters. Nothing's a matter. Just everything's going to work out the way that it's going to work out. And it is true. It probably is true that it is all going to just work itself out on a natural process. And if that's your truth, great. But if your truth is to not let other people experience... I had to pause there. My storage ran out. So if your truth is that you don't want people to live in the ignorance, then you're going to want to say all these words, even if they do fall into deaf ears, because you realize that you don't care that it makes you look weird or bad or whatever, because you know that you'll be leaving this body anyways one day. So then you can sort of come to the table wholeheartedly, just with your authentic self. And that's what I'm doing, rather than enjoying the peace that I've encountered through the understanding that I've realized sort of throughout this journey of listening to my authentic self on a way to help others find the truth. In doing that, I found the truth in the process of doing that. So it highlights the importance of following your true authentic self, because following the breadcrumbs of little synchronicities in your life, then you'll get the answers. It's when you stop listening to your intuitive self that you begin to just identify with your doing self. So like just everything you do, you identify with, which is just a miserable way to be in this planet, because most of the things we do here are fleeting moments of ups and downs. Not this constant state of love, but that's the whole point. So we're in that realm of experiencing, and that's the thing that set me free a lot, is just the reality that we're soul beings here. We're not from this world, but we're here to experience all the feelings that there is to feel. Best way to understand this is, if you didn't experience things and you just understood them, you would know them, but you wouldn't know them from a feeling perspective. You would just know them from an all-knowing perspective. So if you were, say, in space and you have never gone up, you've never gone down, you've never gone left or right, how do you even know where you are? You understand everything, but how do you know whether you're going up or down if you've never done any of those things? If you've never felt bad, how would you know the full measure of what good feels like without fully feeling how miserable bad can be? And this is what this world is. It is just that. And that is information that sets you free. You realize, oh, that's why it's so hard, because it is the feeling dimension. And once we finish this dimension, then we can move on to higher planes of being. The key point I think I want to make today, is a lot of times I mention, and I'm trying to sort of slowly build up to my bigger points, but I hint that this is a test and there will be a consequence. But in every NDE, like near-death experience or out-of-body experience that people explain their experience, they they experience this sort of unconditional love, the power source, the God source, the ether, everything. It doesn't really care what you do down here, because it all, like, when you fast forward a billion years, it's all nothing. We all die and end up back into this reincarnation. It does it again, or we maybe, what I think, we pass. That's what I believe. I believe this is a test, and we don't pass unless we become full of unconditional love as a society. This is what I talk about, the enlightened societies. This is what they've tapped into, if there is aliens out there. Which, unless everything isn't really there, and we're in a consciousness bubble here where just what we perceive is what is real, but potentially once we get to places, well, who knows if it keeps going and there's other beings, or if it's just a facade to give us a carrot in front of us, dangling this carrot to help us get to this sort of intergalactic species. And then once we get there, either maybe the game's over, or it continues and you just travel the space in the society that you've created, whether it's a selfish one, where you're trapped in this AI, plugged into your brain all the time, where you're constantly doing stuff, do this, and you're never ever allowed to just be your true authentic self in the moment and just bask in the unconditional love of the moment. You'll always be thinking in your factual brain, or you can be this society that is advanced off its intuitive channel, its compassion channel, its idea that not one being on our planet can have any less than another. There's an equal playing field. Those societies, I believe, potentially could be the ones that break through to this next realm, but I think it sort of will continue here. This isn't a simulation that's in a computer. It's a simulation that's based around matter, so it's real. So it's a bit hard to think about whether it ends or not. But one way that I know it does end is when people become enlightened, they get given the option when they die and they're doing their life review. They get the option to go on. So that's basically the finish line. You made it. You remembered your purpose here. You remembered your purpose to not be this doing being. You're able to find your true authentic self, your soul. What was actually given to you that you have no memory of, but it's this internal voice that everyone has. And that's the game, is can we identify with this soul and then live a life in that soul's light? And those people will get the option to leave. A lot of them stay. They go. So once you get there, you go, holy crap, all these people, they're all blind, they're all trapped, living in a lie. All the torments, all the people not wanting to be here. The pain. And it doesn't have to be like that. If they just realize the truth, then they could find peace, and people choose to come back. This is what, like, Jesus was. He was like a reincarnated soul that was enlightened. So that's why by the time he was 12 or whatever, he was already surprising the spiritual leaders in the temples. So it tells us that our soul is on a journey. And just to sum up that thought, so Jesus soul, he was that loving that he couldn't leave to go to the next world until he finished his mission of showing us what unconditional love looks like. And that's why he came back. And he had to go through life again to remember and all the struggles of the biology that we have, all of it, all the temptations. And he had to work his way through that to find himself again, and then go on this mission of showing the world what unconditional love looks like, which is what we all are, truly. And that was his mission. And that's what a lot of people's missions are at the moment. There's a lot of spiritual leaders there, souls who are back here to try and wake people up to not be living in any torment anymore, to not live in a world of torment, to create the utopia that we all know is... A lot of people don't think it's possible, but we all know about it, the idea, but we don't think it's possible. But this is what is possible if we all realized it. And this is where I do get worried about our civilization, hence me making these recordings to try and just save one soul. One soul, one brick every sunrise. So when we are given that, so that way when we do die, we are able to get to the next world. But if all of us choose when we get to our life review to go to the next realm, and not enough of us choose to come back to wake everyone else up, I think something to do with this simulation will somewhat restart, and we wouldn't have made it to the point where we are worthy of going to the next stage. That's what I believe. I believe you'll continually get reincarnated if you haven't realized this by the time you die. Let's leave it at that for today. I don't have much time. I want to dive in more to these topics. Reach out to me if you have questions or topics. But I don't really care. Yeah, I don't really care whether people reach out or not. I will just be showing my truest form of myself, and I think that's what's needed in the world from a person who's not a political leader or a social media person, just a normal family man, like all of us. So that's what I'm doing. But yeah, there's a lot of deeper truths behind this reality, and I'm happy to help wake people up as I'm awakening. It just makes everything easier, because I still live in a world of, I don't enjoy much of what I do. I live mostly in a servant world where I still have to provide, work, serve. Very tough. And if you can tap into these true meanings of why we're here in those tough moments, you can have a little bit of a less, that doesn't make sense, but you can have less of a everything is just, what's the word, doomed, like a real doomed mindset. When you understand this, you can feel less doomed. Like there is a purpose. There is life after this life. That's good to know. That's good to know. Like, then you can continue from the truth, not the lie. That's obviously why I'm making these recordings, because the world that I see around me is actually a lie. It's not the true world. And we're going to change that to bring us back to our true state of being. I'm going to do a really deep dive on how I truly believe these advanced societies work. Let me know if you want me to do that, but I'm doing it anyways. So. Doesn't matter. Just go, love your family, love a tree, love yourself. I did that probably backwards. Love yourself first. It's the hardest thing that I realize. Over and out.